Is it. Harris is done. I can't even believe I'm saying this, but the Biden-Harris administration concealed the documents that revealed that Trump did in fact request the National Guard for the January 6th riots. Everything that Kamala Harris has said, Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, is now being looked at under a legal microscope because they in fact defamed Trump publicly, knowing all along they were lying. We now have House documents that went through and unsealed the documents that the Biden-Harris administration sealed that do show that Trump requested it. So all that's been a lie. Harris is done. Trump is going to get the credit and get relieved from these trials because of this document. We also have the polls are revealing now that Trump is winning in Pennsylvania big time, 5 to 8% on every poll. On top of that, a new video is going viral that reveals exactly what everybody has been thinking. There's a lot of the black vote that is moving away from Kamala Harris, and people, all they're saying is she's fake, doesn't have character, you can't trust her with the economy or with the border, and this video is going big. We also have an update on what's actually going on with the border, and it's bad. Everything that we have heard has been underestimated. We've been told that it's been around 10 plus million illegals that have come over. Well, now they're reporting that it's closer to 20 million. Now remember, not just that, we have Venezuelan gangs that are setting up. A lot of these illegal immigrants are getting housing assistance, free internet, Medicare, food stamps, cell phones, all these things. So big news today. Just want to say thank you to everybody that's watching. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing so I can serve you every day with the top news. And also, if you don't mind, click the thumbs up like button. It really does help to grow the channel. And just want to say thank you to all of our members of the channel. Please, if you don't mind, go to the description. We got the links in there to go and join the True Life News family. And also want to say thank you to everybody that blesses me and my family with a super chat donation. We're so thankful. We are going to push forward for good, positive change and take action. But let's get right into this because this is crazy. All the new data that's coming out. Check it out.
And a wide-open border has invited hundreds of terrorists that we know of into America. Over 350 individuals on the U.S. terrorist watch list have been apprehended at the southern border in just the last 3 years. Among the most troubling, dangerous gangs from Venezuela, causing Texas Governor Greg Abbott this week to act, officially designating the Tren de Aragua Venezuelan gang a foreign terrorist threat. After the group took over an apartment building in Aurora, Colorado a few weeks ago, harassing residents, they tried to do the same thing to a hotel in El Paso, Texas last week. The governor continuing his fight to protect America's southern border and the impact of 10 million illegals entering America under the Biden-Harris administration.
This is
Joining me
nuts.
now with the very latest is the man himself, Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Governor, thanks very much for being here this morning. We so appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Please talk to us about Tren de Aragua and what moved you to designate them a foreign threat.
They are known as the most treacherous international gang. Unlike the Mexican drug cartels, they actually come into countries and try to establish a base in those countries and then be able to wreak carnage with their criminal behavior. And remember this, and that is the policy by the Biden administration is to allow any Venezuelan who wants to come into our country to enter here. And because the Biden administration does not have diplomatic relationships with Venezuela, there's no background checks or background information on any of these people coming from Venezuela to the United States. And hence, it makes it so easy for this TDA Venezuela gang that's so treacherous to come to the United States and set up bases. There are bases in New York and other states across the country, and now including...
Everything that you're hearing, it's worse off than what we thought. This is what is actually happening now that they're releasing this data.
Even in the state of Texas. My top goal is to make sure that we protect our fellow Texans. And so I declared this organization a foreign terrorist organization. organized our anti-gang units across the entire state of Texas so that law enforcement at the federal, state, and local levels prioritize this group. We identify them, we seek them out, we arrest them and put them in jail so that TDA will take their activities elsewhere.
Yeah. So what can you do that you couldn't do before because you named them, designated them a foreign terrorist group?
So this is an action pursuant to a law that I signed this last session in the state of Texas that gives the state some additional powers. One is to use court procedures that will accelerate the process going after them. Another that will allow the seizure of any type of property that TDA has in the state of Texas. A third is one that increases criminal penalties against them so that when we do arrest them, they will be behind bars sometimes with mandatory minimum sentences of at least a decade or more.
Yes.
Governor,
and this is one thing they're about to talk about. The Biden-Harris administration has not said one thing about any of the Venezuelan gangs, about any of the terrorists that they've allowed to come over, and you're about to hear the actions that are being taken now to actually hold them accountable.
What do you think the policies will be at the border if Kamala Harris wins this election? She's done a lot of flip-flopping, as you know, from fracking to the border, and she claims that she will protect the border. Of course, we know she hasn't done so in the last 3.5 years, but what would you expect should she win this race?
So you can expect what she's done as vice president. You can expect what she articulated when she first ran for president, and that is she supports eliminating illegal immigration as a crime. She supports giving magnet-drawing immigration policies such as free health care to people crossing the border. She believes in eliminating ICE. This would be the most destructive border policy ever, making Biden's border policy actually even look good. And so as bad as illegal immigration is already, it will be far worse under a Harris administration.
Yeah, and you know, they're boasting about
Do you see this? 14 million of these illegal migrants that are now living here. This doesn't count the over 2 million known gotaways, which puts it at 16 million. And then they also say that there's another 4 to 5 million that they're trying to use the system to bring them in legally, but yet they're just bypassing the immigration process. This is the bad thing that's now coming out that they're saying.
Fact that the numbers are down from the highs. I mean, at the highs, what we were talking about, 8,000 people a day coming through the border there in Texas. But those numbers are down. What we don't talk about is the fact that oftentimes they're down because this administration has decided to start flying them in, right?
Yes,
they're
right
putting
here.
them on planes,
Right
flying
here.
them to swing states across the country.
Well, you are true, but let's be clear about something else. So they're claiming that the numbers are down because of Biden's executive order in June. The reality is, because of action that Texas took, they began going down last year.
Right.
Because Texas represents 2/3 of the border, because we reduced illegal immigration by about 85% in the state of Texas, of course, the border numbers are going to be down. But you mentioned something else that not enough Americans know, and that is another reason why the crossings at the border are down is because Biden is flying them across the border, and then
with taxpayer dollars. They're instead of allowing them just to come through the border, hey, we're going to fly you in on a ticket that's paid for by taxpayers. This is disgusting.
Moving them to cities across the entire United States.
Extraordinary, simply extraordinary. Governor, real quick on this gang, what do you see in Texas in terms of the Tren de Aragua? I know that there are plenty of stories of these individuals running around New York City as well,
Yes.
doing petty crimes. But what's the worst of it? What have you seen?
Well, one of the worst parts of it is the Tren de Aragua gang were involved, allegedly, in the shooting and the attack and the assault of those New York police officers.
Right.
They were involved in the killing of Laken Riley. And so these are very treacherous, dangerous, and murderous gang members, and we must stop them in their tracks right now.
Governor, thank you so much for your leadership.
Tracy J. Norby, thank you so much for that blessed super chat. She said, just, you know, Joel, I'm a Mr. Tracy. I'm a Mr. Tracy. James Norby, the buddy, keep the great work up. Hey, appreciate you so much. Thank you so much. Hey, show Tracy some love in the chat, everybody. But I got a good show for you today because guess what? It's not over yet. This is huge. This is going to change everything. This puts Kamala Harris and Biden done. They are done with this. At the very top, I'm going to zoom in so hopefully you can see this. Oh, it's not letting me zoom in. So at the very top of this document, it says previously concealed. This is from the House Subcommittee on Oversight. Previously concealed by the Biden-Harris administration, Department of Defense. The subcommittee has uncovered statements by key personnel involved in the deployment of the National Guard to the U.S. Capitol on January 6. This is huge. And then right here, this says, right here, this is from General Mark Milley. The president just says, hey, look at this. There's going to be a large amount of protesters here on the 6th. Make sure that you have sufficient National Guard or soldiers to make sure it's a safe event. This was on January 3rd. The next statement, this is from Trump whenever he was president. Hey, I don't care if you use guard or soldiers, active duty soldiers, do whatever you have to do. Just make sure it's safe. This right here, this document is going to alleviate Trump from all the January 6th, all the trials, the indictments, everything. This document right here shows that Nancy Pelosi, Biden, Harris have all lied to the American people and they tried to conceal this, but the subcommittee was able to get it unsealed so that and get these statements to show the American people what actually happened. Trump, in fact, 3 days before January 6th, talked to General Mark Milley, asked for said that there was going to be some type of protest on the 6th and said, we need to make sure the National Guard's there. I don't care if you use soldiers, National Guard, active duty, just make sure it's a safe event. And guess what? Nancy Pelosi and all them pushed back on all of it. It is a complete lie. This is the truth, what you're seeing right here. This document is going to change everything. And this is what I love. You're going to see this stuff that you normally don't see on the mainstream media. True Life is going to show you the news. Tracy, this is why we're here to serve you, to make sure that you and everybody else are taken care of. Summerman, hey, thank you so much for the super chat. Said, and we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. Amen. Hey, show Tracy and Summerman some love in the chat. Because I'm telling you this, I've got you. Check this out. There's a video that's going viral right now. It came from a left-wing media, and this is what people are actually saying, and they're trying to hide it, but it's blowing up on X. Check this out.
Hand up if you think the economy is better under Trump. And hands up if you think the economy is better under Biden and Harris. Right, okay.
7 to 1.
That's pretty clear.
The truth. I'm not saying he's like, of course, yeah, like I did say, he has best. He still has a business mindset. I think that lended somewhat. And I think, yes, the trickle down of whatever previous stuff. And I think he just handles certain things a little better.
Who does?
Trump.
Those?
He provided more jobs, more opportunities, stimulus. Even though he didn't have any experience in politics, but he came in and did a much better job. If you look at the statistics now, we're far more worse now.
I love this.
Firstly, I just want to ask a general question about Harris. Then we're going to show some clips of the debate. What's your biggest hesitation about voting for Kamala Harris?
Just, is she going to be able to do the things that she says she's going to be able to do? That's, you know what I mean? Just, is she going to be able to do it? That's my biggest hesitation. Is she going to be able to get it past Congress? You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Yep.
You know.
Mikhail, how about you?
Everything that glitters ain't gold.
Yeah, for sure.
Right here.
It looks great on paper, but I'm not sure it could translate to politics, and if she'll even be able to get it passed.
Haywood?
My thing is her strength. That's my focus with her. Is she gonna be able to take a punch and give one or two back? That's my biggest thing, and it has nothing to do with her gender, ladies. Okay, but we talking about the highest office in the land.
Yeah. If it was Michelle Obama, I would.
You hear
feel
this?
Totally different.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
she can
yeah.
manage.
You can't be
That's what I'm
weak.
saying.
You can't be weak and hold that off.
Yeah, like if you put her next to Michelle Obama, it's like,
Or Hillary Clinton.
or Hillary Clinton, it's like it's no comparison on the strength that I.
Do you hear this? They are comparing her to Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama. Say you can't even compare her to them because she doesn't have the strength. She looks weak. How is she supposed to be the president, hold the highest office, and she can't even defend herself? Hey, Brian McGavick, he said, thank you for what you're doing. God bless you and your family. Thank you so much for that blessing. Hey, everybody show Brian McGavick some love in the chat.
think Michelle Obama or Hillary Clinton would have against her. They would eat her up.
How did
You hear that?
Harris come across then? How did she do up against him? Hayward says there, big personality. How did she do? How did she come across?
She kept saying that she's a warrior, she's gonna fight, but I don't know if you're as strong as. I mean, I get it what you feel, but I don't think you are as like a warrior, like fighter, like she says she is.
Right.
That's just my opinion. Not that I don't think she doesn't care, and like I said, she used a lot of appealing to emotion, like anecdotal, anecdotal evidence instead of she'd use some facts, but just to appeal to people hey, I'm just to try to get people on her side.
I don't think the bar was set pretty high when it comes to that. When it comes to her speaking, I believe the last debate with Biden set it really low. So I believe she did a lot better than Biden. But that's pretty much what I got from them.
They're both old. Biden is old. Trump is old. We need to get some young folks in there that knows, have an idea of what's going on now. So that's my.
Yeah, it was several times where he kept referring to her as they. He almost didn't even address her. He kept saying Biden. He didn't say her name at all.
Yeah, or that's your boss. Basically, that's your boss. You're just doing what Biden wants to do.
Yeah, and it does make you wonder, right? Because it's kind of he's saying
here.
stuff y'all just ousted him. And I'm like, well, that's not what happened. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, what if that is what happened? And
Yes.
Now she's a figurehead, so...
Figurehead. So what you just heard out of this viral video is that they don't trust Kamala on the economy. They see her as weak. They see her as a figurehead. They don't feel like she's the warrior that she says she is. And this is where they're saying whoa, we did not expect this. This is from the Daily Mail. And this video is going viral because a lot of people are like, oh, so that's what people are actually thinking of her? So she's all these things that are saying, the polls that are saying she's winning this, that's not how people actually feel? No, it's a complete lie. This literally puts Kamala Harris, she's done. When the more that this video goes viral and the more that this video gets shared, people are seeing what people actually think about her. And I love it because more and more, we're seeing more interviews from Trump, Vance, of what is actually happening with their campaign and the actions that they're taking to help the American people. Check this out.
Is that if you sort of take the people who voted in 2020 versus the people who voted for Biden in 2020, the people who voted for Trump in 2020, we're probably about even there. I'd sort of give it a 50-50 chance, but there are a lot of marginal voters, meaning people who don't always show up to the polls. And if they show up, they're 70-30 for Donald Trump. So it's basically the name of the game.
This is the polling that I put in the title, that a lot of the independent voters are a 7-3 for Trump. 7 out of 10 voters, every 10 voters, 7 are for Trump, 3 are for Kamala Harris, and this is where Donald Trump is winning big time with independents.
Is you can't get depressed and give up on your country. You have to get out there and vote, because if you do, we're gonna win. So get out there and vote and we'll win. And look, the story of basically the last 30 years, in my view, is that our leadership has turned the American people into paupers in their own country, right? You're not going to own anything. God, no way you're going to own a house because the leadership has made it way too expensive to buy a house, and plus interest rates are too high. You're not going to have real public safety in your communities because we're going to import 25 million people. We're going to overstress the legal system. We're going to overstress the police system. You're not actually going to have a decent job because we want to ship way too many middle-class jobs off to China, off to Mexico. And so the American people, I think, they're fed up with it. They're saying, we don't give a shit what you think about us. We're going to vote for our own interests, and we're going to vote to save our country. But but the thing that is really meaningful, and if I worry about anything, it's that we're going to get lazy and we're going to rest on our laurels, and we're not going to get out there and actually pound the pavement and vote. There are way too many people who know that the country is broken, who know that Kamala Harris would make a terrible president, but they have to actually get out there and do the thing that all of us have to do, which is vote. It's very simple.
There's been this thing happening for the last 8 years actually, but it seems to have come to a head in the last several months, where the realignment is now very obvious between the parties. And you do see a bunch of pretty high-profile Democrats coming to your campaign, to endorse your campaign, and you see, honestly, some high-profile Republicans go over to Kamala Harris.
Correct.
So just to put it in one sentence, you got Bobby Kennedy, and they got Dick Cheney and his horrible daughter.
A hell of a trade, by the way. Right. I'll take that trade every day and twice on Sunday.
And I didn't mean to, I can't remember her name, so I'm gonna go with horrible daughter. I think it's fair. How would you describe that realignment? Like, what is that?
Well, I think there are a couple things going on. So first of all, if you spend any time in professional Washington, which I've spent a couple years there, you realize that one of the things that gives a lot of people meaning is like playing a chess game with the lives of other people's children, right?
Right here.
And of course, if you think like that, you're kind of a sicko and you shouldn't be anywhere near power. But Washington is full of people who really like to go out and play strategic games with the lives of other people's children. And there's probably nobody who better represents that, of course, than Liz and Dick Cheney, who their entire politics for the past 30 years has been using American power to inflame tensions in the world, to draw the United States deeper and deeper into foreign conflicts, which either shouldn't exist at all, or certainly the United States shouldn't have any business in. And I think that
that's huge. All you can say is the border, Biden-Harris administration screwed up the border. They screwed up foreign wars, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Hamas, Iran, and they screwed up inflation. They screwed up the economy, interest rates, all that. Like, to me, what more do you want as a reason to not vote for them?
And I think so that's one thing that's going on is if you don't think the United States should get involved in every stupid war in the world, then you're a Republican. And if you think the United States should send billions of dollars and tons of innocent Americans to die in some foreign country, then you're going to...
On top of sending over hundreds of billions of dollars of taxpayer money to these overseas wars.
A Democrat. And that's kind of crazy, right? Because it was sort of exactly the opposite probably 40, 50 years ago. But then there are two other big issues. The three things that really matter. One is foreign policy. Our side, I think, is rational and restrained. We don't want to fight every ridiculous war, and we're like worried about getting involved in World War III because we should be, because we have nuclear weapons now, and you have to be cautious about that stuff. The second big issue is, in my view, over immigration. Right? If you sort of look at the Liz Cheney, Dick Cheney view, their basic argument is let's flood the United States with millions upon millions of foreign laborers because that's good for business. And there are those of us who are saying, well, is it actually good for social cohesion? Isn't it good for workers? Hell no, so we're not going to accept that.
Yes.
The third thing... And the third thing that I think really divides the parties, and it's like me, Bobby Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard, Donald Trump, we're sort of all on the same page on this, is do you think that the United States should ship its entire industrial base to foreign countries, some of which hate us, And if you think that's insane, like I do, then you're going to vote for Donald Trump. And if you think it's a great idea to ship our industrial base overseas, you're welcome in the party of Kamala Harris and Dick Cheney. And that's basically it. And those three issues, Tucker, have divided people. I think have divided the entire country.
Yes.
But actually only the leadership class, because I actually think that like 70% of Americans agree with our viewpoint on these issues. I just think that the leadership of this country has gotten so deranged that they convince themselves that there's a great American majority for fighting a ton of wars, importing a ton of illegal aliens, and shipping all the jobs overseas. And I just don't think there is.
I would say it's higher than 70% consensus.
Tracy, thank you so much for that super chat. Hey, appreciate you so much. Everybody, show Tracy some love in the chat.
And you know that because the advocates of the positions you just described will never admit that they're advocating for them. No one will ever say, yeah, we just brought in tens of millions of illegal aliens. They lie about the fact they did it. So clearly there's no constituency for that.
No, that's exactly right. And, this has been a big issue with some of the microscope that's been put on communities that have accepted a large number of Haitian migrants the past couple of years. So in Springfield, Ohio, about 20,000. There's a community in Pennsylvania that I think has accepted about 2,500 in a town of about 4,000 people. So there are people who say that this is fundamentally necessary because unless you import all of these people, that there aren't going to be any jobs. And I actually think that sort of gets it exactly upside down. The reason why people left these communities is because our leadership shipped all of their jobs to Mexico and China and other countries. So if you want to fix the problem, bring economic prosperity back to our country. Don't bring 2,500 or 25,000 foreign laborers into small town America.
Exactly.
Amen. But it also raises I think an even deeper philosophical question, which is, who are you serving? Who's your loyalty to? I don't care how screwed up and fentanyl-ridden and post-industrial your little town is. The people who live there are American citizens, and they own the government. And so the people in charge have to care about them. But they don't at all. They care about their donors who think that their businesses will benefit from importing an entirely new class of workers. But
this is where we're at right now. We have these millions of people that have come over. And it's like, I can't even imagine. The administration is pulling in all these people. Why? Because they want to make them into voters. But when you think about, we can't even take care of our own right now. We got homeless veterans. We got kids that don't have enough food. We have people that need help. But yeah, we're going to overstep them to bring in more people, to turn them into voters, and then give them all the care, all the Medicare, food stamps, free hotels, free all this. And it's just like, why would you do that? Because right now you're about to listen to, I just showed you in the beginning, there's a lot of support, and there's that now that we have the document for the January 6th, Trump 100% called for the National Guard to come in and protect the Capitol, yet Nancy Pelosi refused it. Check this out, because this to me is the most revealing ever, and I think you'll like the speaker.
Crescendo, like every good interview should. We started off with some stuff that he would like. Joe Biden's old. How about that? And then you built.
You warmed him up. It's a classic strategy, right?
So on the lawfare, so Judge Merchan just moved the sentencing date from, I guess it was supposed to be a few days ago, to November 18th. It occurs to me that's 2 weeks after the election. So if Merchan wants to send Trump to prison, but is afraid to do it now because it'd be a huge backlash right before the election, seems to me that's kind of what you do. You set the date 2 weeks after. What's your take on that? Do you think he gets elected? If Trump loses the election, do you think he's going to Rikers?
No, I don't.
You don't think so?
I think there's a possibility Merchan will sentence him because this whole case, which was about him writing down something in a book no one ever saw, it was in a book that stayed on the shelf at Trump Tower, didn't have the right thing. It didn't say hush money to Stormy Daniels. It said legal services. No one ever saw that. Just someone came knocking because they wanted to mess with Trump, found it and said, this isn't recorded accurately. It's a fraud, and he got prosecuted. And I think Judge Merchan has allowed Alvin Bragg to turn it into You tried to steal the election because now, guys, I'm sorry to tell you, but if you ever want to run for office, you have an ethical obligation to let any woman accusing you of any bad stuff come forward and say it to everyone. And if she says, I won't hurt you publicly, whether it's true or not, if you just give me $130,000, you may not pay her, or you're going to go to jail. So you must let yourself be blackmailed, let someone say this stuff about you, true or not, or you're going to prison. That's how that case was tried. That is now the position that every politician is in, theoretically.
I mean, the case made sense as a misdemeanor, but not as a felony. I think you would agree.
No, it made no sense. I mean, as a misdemeanor, the statute of limitations has expired.
Sure, but I mean, it clearly was escalated to a point. But I wonder how you think, as with family members, you know, in the, you know, that are cops, how you look at the other cases, and if you think there's any validity to them. Because there are 5 cases we're talking about. He's guilty of the first 3 so far out of 3. Some of them feel trumped up. But what about the last 2? You know, the documents and the January 6th one, do you think there's any validity to them?
No validity.
Zero.
The only thing that Trump was potentially in trouble on, and the thing I hit him on when we interviewed, was not turning over the documents once he had a subpoena.
Which would have been so easy to do.
Yes. But
which was dumb, but he's Trump.
He should have turned him over.
He always does self-destructive stuff.
But that one's gone away now too because of Jack Smith not being properly appointed down there. But in answer to your question on
Hey, Summerman, thank you so much for the super chat. It said the old guard is falling. Fall the deep state is falling. MAGA, let's go. Everybody show Summerman some love in the chat. Y'all are awesome. Thank y'all so much for these blessings.
Rashawn, I think he almost is in a position where he might have to sentence him to jail, given how big they've tried to make it. You stole an election. But it would be at a suspended sentence. It would be immediately appealed. And I think Trump on appeal will win. Mm-hmm. There are so many holes in that case, so I don't think Trump will ever do 1 single day in jail.
So Megan, if we look at the 5 cases, you know, 6 months from now, or a year from now, let's assume all 5 of them go to trial. He's guilty of 3 so far.
Wait, what do you mean he's guilty of 3 so far?
Well, he's been convicted of 3, sorry.
What do you mean? No, he hasn't.
Ooh, I love this. Eugene Carroll was guilty.
That was not a conviction. That was a civil case.
Okay, well, yes, so that's what I'm talking about. So that
okay, but there's a big difference.
It's still he was convicted. He was guilty.
Get him, Megan.
Get him. In the Trump organization, they're guilty there.
That, okay, again, was civil, liable.
Yes, of course. But these are the cases we're talking about. And in the third one...
you know she's a lawyer, right?
Yeah, of course. And in the third one... I'm just talking about the 5 cases. Yes, some are civil, obviously, and some are not. Some are criminal. But if we look at all 5 cases...
You said 3 convictions. Now you're walking it back.
I'm not walking it back. There's 3 in which he was...
You should walk it back.
I'm so glad Megan is here.
Of the 5, 3 of them, he's either guilty or...
You got a bad result.
Yeah, got a bad result. There are 2 more. If he is found guilty of those 2 more, Megan, and 5 of 5, he had a bad result, way to frame it, will you chalk all 5 up in your mind to 5 different jurisdictions, 5 different prosecutors, 5 different juries and or judges, all conspiring to get him?
100%.
Okay.
Yes.
That's all I wanted to hear your answer to. 5 of 5 different jurisdictions. Yeah. You think it's all lawfare?
Eugene Carroll, they changed the law so that she could bring a civil lawsuit against him, and she did. New York went 87% for Joe Biden. That fix was in right from the start. The fraud trial that Letitia James brought against him has never been brought. There's no victims. The banks who were involved said, we didn't lose a penny. What are we doing here? We weren't damaged. Nobody was complaining except Tish James, who ran for office saying, I will get him. Then you have Alvin Bragg, who's a George Soros-funded prosecutor who doesn't like to prosecute any crime in New York City, where I lived for 17 years, except if your name is Donald Trump. Let's go down to Georgia, where Fani Willis and Nathan Wade couldn't keep their libidos in check long enough to actually bring this case against Donald Trump. It's a repeat of what was happening in January 6th up in the case with Judge Chutkan, who loathes Trump and has sentenced almost every J6 defendant to way more jail time than their counterparts would get. Those are falling apart because of presidential immunity, which was handed down by the Supreme Court, who said you cannot bring a criminal case against a sitting president for any official act. Those cases have been gutted. Also a Supreme Court ruling saying the same on January 6 defendants in general. And that leaves us with Florida and the documents. And Trump has torn that apart because Jack Smith wasn't properly appointed and isn't the right counsel. But there are other issues. They haven't even gotten to presidential immunity there. And so that one's going nowhere as well. And by the way, they're going to appeal it up to the 11th Circuit. She just threw it out. The 11th Circuit is conservative, and thank God so is the current Supreme Court. They're not going to tolerate that nonsense.
Let me ask you about...
I I love it. I love it. See, what you just heard there from a lawyer is that all these cases, they're crumbling. Especially the January 6th riot. Now that we have what? We have that document that clearly shows Trump requested from General Mills, we need people here 3 days before it actually happened. Nancy Pelosi, Biden, and Harris have been lying, and they need to be held accountable. Well, I mean, I don't know about Biden because I don't even know if he's actually running the country. Right now, he just had this meeting. His wife pretty much ran it, and now they're asking, well, how do cabinets actually run? Check out what this guy has to say.
For more on all of this, let's welcome former Trump cabinet member, Dr. Ben Carson. People love you, Dr. Carson. You've been in that position with President Trump when great things were happening for this country, when cabinet secretaries actually had work to do and were getting it done. Tell everyone your assessment of the absurdity of what we're being presented at this point.
Well, thanks, Tammy, for having me. You know, we had a lot of cabinet meetings and substantial things were talked about. There was a lot of inter-cabinet relationships, things that required multiple different agencies working upon them. And we started every cabinet meeting with prayer.
Let's go.
And I think we got a lot of stuff accomplished. And frequently at the end, we invited the media in and took some of their questions as well. But it was a very different thing, because cabinet meetings were for getting things done. If you have an administration that's not getting anything done, then I guess you don't need a lot of cabinet meetings.
See, right here, he's just notating, because it's been 11 months since the Biden-Harris administration has had a cabinet meeting. So meaning 11 months since they actually got the people in charge of everything in the government to get together to actually talk about what's going on. Versus what he said that we had cabinet meetings all the time because we were actually doing things for the American people.
Would be it, which is what's so strange, is for him to meet with the cabinet, telling them to get on with their work. We don't know what their work is. I don't think Joe Biden knows what their work is. When you were working on the cabinet with the President Trump, you knew what your agenda was. You knew what you wanted to accomplish. It's in part why he chose you and his other cabinet members. Was there always direction from the president? Did he handle it only at cabinet meetings, or was there constant work through the days and the months as well?
No, there was constant work always. This was more of a debriefing and an opportunity to coordinate with all the other cabinet members to make sure we all were on the same page and knew what each other was doing. So it was very, very easy to work with President Trump. If there were any disagreements, we always would talk about what those were. But philosophically, at least in my case with HUD, we were very much on the same page. We probably had different personalities, but in terms of what we were trying to accomplish, that was very easy.
How do you feel about the current cabinet that clearly is accepting and embracing what seems to be a fraud here? They know what they're not getting. They've worked in business. They're adult human beings. What do you have to say to any of the cabinet members now who are facilitating this charade upon the American people?
Well, cabinet and staff, White House staff, you know, there are a lot of people who are in on this, and they know full well that he's not capable of doing a job, and they've been hiding it. And of course, he was a great, wonderful person who accomplished all kinds of things until he wasn't. And then they wanted to get rid of him.
Yeah.
His wife also and his family, they knew about this and they didn't do anything about it.
It's a shame.
And
that's the worst part. Now we all know it was a sham. Harris has been covering up for Biden. I don't even know what's going on with, you know, the whole investigation, because Congress said we need to investigate because there's one of two things. If Biden is capable to be president, then why is he not capable to run for the presidency for 2024? And if he's not capable to run for the presidency for 2024, then why is he now still the president? Somebody's running this country. We don't even know who they are. I just want to say thank you to everybody that's watching. If you are not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. And if you don't mind, click the thumbs up like button. We are here to serve you. I just want to say thank you to all of our members of the True Life News family. The links are in the description to join. It's less than $1 per month, and we are here to make positive change. We've got an amazing thing going on. We're going to show you in the next week of what we're doing with the money to make positive change in this world. And I want to give some shout outs to all those that blessed me and my family with a super chat. We are so thankful for you and so grateful. Remember, like things... We want to make sure we stay up to date news. That's why you get podcast videos from us every single day of the week. Monday through Friday, 2 shows. And Saturday and Sunday, 1 show a piece, because we're going to make sure that you're informed and updated. Want to say thank you to Summerman, Brian McGavick, Tracy J. Norby, so much for all the blessed super chats. We are here to serve you. That American flag represents America, it represents our freedom, and we have to fight for it. We love you all. Thank you so much, and we will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.